Hello and welcome to a new Let's Play. Today I'm going to be playing the Looney Tunes Back in Action video game, a tie-in to the movie of the same name that came out back in 2004. This is done on the Dolphin emulator since, well, they no longer sell GameCube games. But I do remember playing this quite a lot when I was younger, so I decided to take another stab at it and see if it's just as good as I remember it being from my childhood. For this Let's Play, I'll be using post-commentary, and the videos themselves will be edited to remove mistakes, to remove time wasting, and certain audio glitches.
Ha ha ha! Soon the whole world will be helpless before me. Watch as I transform you into my singing slaves with this, the magical blue monkey diamond.
Not if I have anything to say about it, evildoer. Prepare to suffer the righteous fury of my oversized foam latex muscles. The girls love them.
Hold it!
Hold it? What do you mean, hold it? Don't you want to see my righteous fury? It's really righteous.
Daffy, I'm afraid you're just not action star material.
Humph. Well, I guess we know what 65 years of loyal service is worth in this town. Thanks a lot, Mr. Moral Support.
Yeah, it's a smash hit. I love it.
And to think I already went out of pocket for this prop diamond. $5 at the pawn shop.
Why, it's the real blue monkey diamond.
Okay, so it's not an original concept, but did you say real?
Yes, real. At last I found it.
The evil chairman of Acme Industries. I began by taking over the studio that gave my company such a bad name. And now, with this diamond, I can turn everyone into monkeys and conquer the world, starting with the two of you!
A Hollywood executive who's secretly evil? Should we be surprised?
Nah, but the mask was a nice touch.
Huh? Well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Big diamond! Big diamond!
Yep, and dangerous in the wrong hands. So what do you think? You up for saving the world?
Well, Schmerl, that thing's worth a fortune! Get back here, you little lifetime of total financial security!
Did someone say security?
Wait, Porky! After them! Andale, andale!
And that was the opening cutscene. It's kind of interesting that the chairman looks very little like Steve Martin did in the actual movie.
Quit monkeying around and get back here!
One of the fastest ways to get around in this game is by rolling. The problem is that the game is very finicky when it comes to where you can and cannot roll. It has to be on a completely flat surface. Certain inclines, and if you ever roll into a corner or an edge like that, will cause your character to fall down and lose a few seconds. And let me tell you, it's very easy to bonk your head on something while rolling and get your character to fall down. You'll be seeing that a lot in this Let's Play. This game actually does have a speedrunning scene. It's very small, it's like 2 or 3 people. I would even go as far as to say that Agony had more of a speedrunning scene than this game. But I will link to the world record speedrun in the description. The goal of the game is to collect these monkeys here.
Ooh,
Sometimes you need to chase after them and hit them 3 times, as said here. Other times it just drops down and waits in place for you to collect it as a reward for beating the level. But overall, really what you need to do is just play through the game, and these are your rewards. This sort of pause here is a recording error.
Stop, see? Darn special effects. Oh no, the diamond!
Da 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 da.
I'm ruined! A fabulous fortune gone in an instant!
Well, guess I better go bail him out.
In addition to just beating the levels, there's also collectibles scattered throughout the world that reward you with monkeys. One of the most noticeable ones are the Michigan J. Frog statues that play a sort of croaking sound whenever you're nearby them. Those are also the most abundant or numerous as far as collectibles go. Second collectible would be the bird seeds that you can occasionally find. There's 7 in each world, and if you collect all of them, you unlock an additional level where you play as a coyote chasing, and yeah, I just ran right into that car off the bat. But you play as a coyote chasing after the roadrunner, and after you beat that, you get a monkey. And the third collectible, this is the most loosely defined version of it, there's 3 moments in each world where Sylvester's like trying to catch Tweety. They are sort of standing in place so you don't have to chase them, but what you need to do is go up to Sylvester and give him a whack to prevent him from actually catching Tweety, and after 3 of those, Granny comes in and gives you a monkey. The reason you're going after monkeys is because the final level requires a certain amount in order to actually beat the game. Though collecting monkeys is the point of beating each level, it does not guarantee you the ability to go from one world to another. Instead, you need to collect a certain amount of money for each world in order to progress. And I think this mission here is the first real level or real challenge in the game. It's not based on just getting across the road and giving you a light tutorial on the movements and mechanics. When you fall from a certain height, your character will land flat on their face, so if you are speedrunning, there are ways to prevent that from happening, but it's something that doesn't really matter too much for casual playthrough. If you fall from too high up, you'll lose a bit of health, but again, this isn't a challenging or difficult game by any means. It's very easy to sort of bounce back from any mistakes you make.
Hey, you're a rabbit. You can burrow. What'd you expect? Now hurry up and bump me out of the ground. Make with a burrowing buster.
Right here, I'll show that when you're directly underneath a character, you can't leave the ground. You have to be away from anyone else.
Pal, you're a star. Not as big as me, of course, but a star nonetheless.
Gee, you try to help some people.
I'm doomed, Bugs. There's wanted posters up for me everywhere. I'm a hunted duck, doomed to prowl the land, always on the run, always searching for that man with one arm.
Say, they're not after me.
I will say that, like, though it's nice that the frog statues alert you when you're nearby one, if you're not actively looking for them, and you sort of ignore them because you're focused on something else, it can get a little bit annoying. Here I stand on this fire hydrant and see if there's any frog statues up here to collect, and maybe that'll stop the croaking. There is one, but I don't think it was one that was making noise by Daffy over there.
Hunted duck? What's he done now? Wanted?
When I first downloaded this game for an emulator and tried playing through it, I actually forgot this area up here existed. So I spent like an hour walking around, running around, rolling around, trying to find this one wanted poster. It was a real, shall we say, DSP moment. That's why I'd call it a DSP moment, when you absolutely make a stupid error when playing video games. Here's one of the Sylvester and Tweety things I was telling you about.
That was only kidding. Him not really gonna eat me.
See? It's true that carrots are good for you.
Fun fact, carrots actually aren't all that good for rabbits. There's much healthier food to give them. Thing is, like, carrots and rabbits have become inseparable because of Bugs Bunny. He had quite the influence on popular culture and all that stuff.
Well, they tried sandwiches, but that ain't so good for the digestive system.
In this level, there's two main types of enemies. There's those tourist guys that'll run up to you and take pictures of you, which will cause you to lose a little bit of health. You can actually roll into them a bunch of times and basically kill them. And the other type of enemy are those security guards you see walking around behind Foghorn Leghorn there. And you just want to avoid them, because if they touch you, you'll be put into this sort of button mashing mini game where you have to press X enough times and fast enough to overpower them. What's interesting about them is they actually appear in more than just this world. They're a recurring enemy.
Hey, a nickel!
Go ahead. Make my day. Well, golly, the
So here I spend a bit of additional time trying to find the final poster. It's not quite the same as a DSP or Dark Side Phil moment I had in the other attempt at playing through the game, but it is kind of silly. I don't know what is about these posters that are just so difficult for me to find, but apparently I am not good at finding wanted posters, especially of Daffy Duck. One thing I'm not really a fan of is a camera system. I think that it could be implemented a little bit better, especially the speed at which you turn left and right with it. And I don't find much use in using it to zoom out and see more of the environment. It just doesn't seem to accommodate any area that's pretty high up above your character, which is unfortunate because you sometimes need that in order to find different collectibles, especially the frog statues.
For some reason,
And the riveting isn't all that good for finding them. Just tells you there's one in an area, but you can't really figure out where to go or how close you are after a certain point.
Monkey Hunter.
Hey, another monkey! Cute little guy. I think I'll keep him.
I lost the diamond.
What I'm gonna do is check the map screen. Look,
There he is.
let's see where he lands.
Look, Paris, France. Gay Paris, city of berets, fondue, and hunchbacks. You know, in certain parts of Europe, I'm considered a genius.
Paris, and make it snappy.
Take a check? Why, that's highway robbery! Where are we gonna get that kind of dough? on a Hollywood movie star's salary.
Well, there was plenty of money lying around back in there.
There was? Okay, why don't you grab some of that money by yourself, pal? I'll just, cheer you on, you know, from, way back here. Where the angle is better for survival. If you want a breather, just hit the tune swap button, okay?
Sure thing, Daff. You know, we ought to grab all those stray monkeys, too. What with the magic diamond and all, you never know who they could be. Get the feeling you was being rendered?
Something I want to apologize for that cutscene back there. When I was starting to record this game on the Dolphin emulator, it would auto-save and there'd be this text on the top that would, you know, use my real name and all that stuff that I had to remove and edit out of the video because, well, I don't want you to see my real name. And the text just happened to appear for a few seconds in that last cutscene. I have been able to fix that problem for upcoming videos, so editing those sort of pre-rendered cutscenes isn't going to be necessary moving forward, but it was quite the mistake on my part for this one.
Those cars look strangely bouncy. You know, I'm a lot better at digging than you are, Daff.
And coming up, we'll see a demonstration of the little event with a security guard. Really is just smashing the X button until you beat him. Kinda funny, it looks a bit like Elmer Fudd, even though Elmer Fudd is a character in this game. Guess they just couldn't really think of a different human model for him. The tourist guys, oh, are you serious, mate? The tourist guy is actually pretty unique looking, all things considered. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing these guys return in like maybe an upcoming short, just as background characters or whatever. Nice little shout out to the game and movie. It's actually unfortunate that the movie didn't do very well. I was very excited for it when I was younger. My favorite Looney Tunes character is Marvin the Martian, and I was very happy that he had not one, but two very big scenes in the film. I mean, who doesn't love that, seeing their favorite character have a huge impact on a movie? I will say, I kinda wish there was like just an animated Looney Tunes film, not live action with animation, cause even though it was an alright movie, it kinda felt very similar to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Actually, a sort of fun little story. Before the movie officially came out, Bed Bath & Beyond was doing this sort of promotional thing where you can go in and get some tickets for an early screening, and when my mother found out about that, I think she heard it on radio, she like immediately went over and got me some tickets to see the film. So that was very nice, a good memory. What's not quite nice is this platforming, which when you jump, the camera sort of turns to face that area over there, which means you have to reorient it because it's a lot easier to view it from the side than facing forward. And that little thing with the jumping and hitting it was me trying to do a glitch from the speedrun. I mean, all things considered, this particular part of the level can suck my ass. I remember when I was younger trying to get to the other side, and just pissed me off because I kept failing over and over like I'm doing here. It's just like I could get across as Bugs Bunny, but getting across as Daffy Duck, that was really difficult. Eventually I managed it, but it was not without issue. So cutting ahead a little bit, here's my successful attempt. You stand on that button, and then comes Bugs Bunny taking the easy route. You have to orient the camera all the time. The platforming isn't bad in the game, but it's not very good either. It's just very average. I do like the fact that this whole area is sort of a spoiler for the final level. See all the sort of props and features, and there's me falling down, failing to collect that statue. You see a bunch of stuff that you'll eventually see in the last world. And it makes sense since in the movie it was sort of shown that the whole adventure was, well, a movie. It wasn't actually real, or not as real as the characters thought it was. I've mentioned earlier there's weird audio glitches, and what happens is I think when the game is paused or interrupted by a text box, which will be coming up right about now.
I'm going back to Des Moines.
About now, Daffy. There we go. Like this. Then there's this initial really loud noise, followed by a cacophony of the various sound effects that are heard throughout the game. I have no idea why this happens or what actually causes it. It's kind of annoying, and it happens throughout the Let's Play. I do try to edit it out as much as I can. I find it kind of funny that the windows to different areas are just flat images, trying to show that off there. It's like a very low resolution JPEG. I mean, this game isn't exactly the pinnacle of graphical fidelity. It actually runs at 30 frames per second. Right here is a sort of mini challenge where you need to grab the chickens, and I try my best to, but can't, so I decide to switch to Bugs Bunny and back to Daffy for whatever reason. You need to hold X and sort of aim it at the targets there. And it's the same deal as the game's camera. Up and down are up and down, but left you need to move the stick right, and vice versa. If you ever run out of chickens or anything like that, just step on the pad again and 3 more will respawn. Something to keep in mind, especially when you're doing speedruns. Though if you are doing a speedrun, you're probably going to be skipping this level, because there is a way to get through the gates without completing the challenges. Now I was trying to throw a chicken at the security guard there just to see what happens. And here I am trying again. It doesn't do a damn thing. And then I get caught and have to do this again. Looks like a very depressed Elmer Fudd. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I find it kind of interesting that there's no outfits for Daffy, and I don't even think for Bugs technically, that are from any of the actual cartoons they're in. For Daffy, the only outfit is the sort of Batman parody called Duck Danger. There's also this little tourist guy. They have very weird mouths. Like, they kind of look like the enemy from Amnesia, The Dark Descent, with a huge gaping maw. Basically what you need to do is drive around, and you want to hit one of these guys in the go-karts here. I think golf carts, or I think they're golf carts. And then not get hit for the duration of the time on the top left there. And when they're right behind you, there's actually a method you can use to absolutely 100% avoid getting hit. And what you do is you just turn around, go left or right, and the enemy will also be turning around, and because they're going the same speed and at the same angle as you, they'll never be able to catch up. And you don't have to worry if they're like literally right on your tail. Like even if they're just an inch away from you, if the bomb explodes and it's not over your car, you won't get damaged by it. So here we go, demonstrating that trick again. It's a good thing to use for speedrunning, though I suppose speedrunners would much rather be able to skip this challenge entirely, because it does take up quite a bit of time. Though, to its credit, it does have a very set time limit. It's based entirely off of this, timer up in the top left. So you can't really waste any time unless you screw up somehow. The tours can sometimes have a sort of weird orbit, where rather than follow you and chase you, it's sort of like two rings overlapping, where you're turning one way, like clockwise, and they're headed at you counterclockwise, and they just barely miss you each time. But again, if you just keep turning, you'll make it through unscathed. Throughout the game, when the characters are chasing the monkey, it sounds like they're under the assumption it's one that stole the diamond in the first place, which is kind of weird because it's a very visually distinct monkey. It's wearing a top hat and carrying around a giant blue diamond. Rather hard to miss, all things considered.
Daffy, you gotta eat. You're gonna get smashed and crushed and drowned and beat up a lot. So you'll need your strength.
Can't you do anything by yourself? Hey, you're not the only fully animated character around here, pal.
Get back here, you little stinker.
So right here, I try to do a sort of speedrun strat, where if you stand in the right place on a table, the monkey would be unable to pass by you and sort of get caught on your own character, and you can just easily hit it 3 times and finish a little segment faster. There's one of those for pretty much every chasing segment in the speedrun route, but I don't speedrun the game, so I'm clearly not very skilled at these executions.
Not bad. You pulled yourself out of a hat that time.
In the actual speedrunning route, you're able to skip an animation where you're able to walk around while it's going rather than being forced in place. Here I try to get a good look at the people driving go-karts. Called them tourists earlier, but that was a mistake. They're just people working on the sets or whatever. But during this moment, even though you're able to skip the animation or waiting for it, your character is completely invisible, so you have to navigate the platforming with a character you can't see. So for this segment, there's 2 types of surfaces you can walk on. There's a darker flat surface that doesn't sink, and then there's surfaces with the Looney Tunes Back in Action logo on them that do sink after you walk on them and will resurface after a few seconds. So basically you're just mad dashing from one darker surface to another. Some of the darker surfaces do move around, and it's possible to make very wide leaps, so you get to sort of skip a little bit of the waiting. Speedrunners have managed to get this run through pretty well, able to get from point A to point B with very few mistakes and with very little waiting. The only thing is that if you make a mistake and fall down, you're back at the last checkpoint. I do like the fact that the bonking issue isn't a thing on these crates here, and you can actually see how far you can jump. But it's not an issue on the crates here, even though anywhere else in the game, if you were rolling around on those sort of surfaces with those sort of gaps, your character will be flat on his back for a few seconds.
Jump! About time, you gameplay. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Dive, dive! Yay!
What you're supposed to do is need to dive down on these plugs, but the camera as well as the precision that the plugs require can be a little bit annoying to overcome. And then you have one of these button mashing events. There's quite a few of those throughout the game, but there's a speedrun strat where if you step on a surface like that box there and you fall down into the water, your character will sink down low enough that he's at the little hit detection box that says he's allowed to do the button mashing event. Like right here, you drop down and he immediately grabs it and skips having to dive and orient yourself. And that's something that the speedrun community likes to do. And it's also pretty useful because the boxes do sort of serve as a way to measure how close you are to the plugs. So you aren't like diving around it, but actually landing right on it. You don't have to jump from the boxes, you can jump out and back into the water to do that trick as well. Because Looney Tunes Back in Action didn't do very well financially, it actually sort of cancelled any future plans for Looney Tunes movies. There was supposed to be like a Looney Tunes movie with Tony Hawk in it, based around skateboarding, similar to how Space Jam had Michael Jordan and was based around basketball, but of course, you know, the whole thing was sort of scrapped. There is actually going to be a Space Jam 2, though, sort of cashing in on the nostalgia or whatever. I don't know who it's going to feature, and all things considered, I don't really keep up with basketball news, so even if I did hear, I probably have no real opinion one way or the other. I kind of wish it was just an animated Looney Tunes movie. I'm not really a fan of having to supplement animation movies based on cartoons with live action stuff. Like, you know, if you're making a movie about cartoon, then make it a cartoon. Upcoming is, I think, my favorite level in this sort of world area here.
Hey, another 5 cents.
And it's a place where you chase a monkey up on the clouds. I don't know why, it's just rather fun for me. And the funny thing is that I had significantly less problems doing this when I was younger than I did doing that sort of hop from those pillars.
Another one bites the dust. Give up already.
I don't think there's actually a way to block the monkey easily here, but it doesn't really matter because you do want to get to the end of it for the bird seeds. And unfortunately, during this run-through of the world, I actually don't get all the bird seeds or all the statues or all the Sylvester and Tweeties. So that was a bit of a wasted effort. I quite like the palm tree shirts that the tourists there have. They really do have an amusing design to them. Anyways, here's an example of the audio glitches I was telling you about.
That's a wrap. Don't point. Hooray! I'm rich.
Take note that the volume for that segment was lowered quite a bit, and the initial noise was removed. It really is a weird glitch to be confronted with, but thankfully it can be mostly avoided. I spend a little while longer looking for the last birdseed or any collectibles, but I don't find them. And when looking around, I collect a bunch of money, which in turn I'm able to go to Foghorn Leghorn, who's walking around, and you can actually buy monkeys from him. I guess that's one of the quote-unquote collectibles I neglected to talk about. But he has a certain price for monkeys, which can be good if you missed some Roadrunner stuff or Sylvesters and Tweeties in any of the other worlds, but you do need a certain amount of monkeys. I know that speedrunners use him for like the first 2 worlds, I think.
Pay attention! Clean out your ears, boy. My tongue's flapping, but there ain't no words reaching your brain. Buy this here monkey.
There's more audio glitches in this part, so I just lowered the volume. And this will conclude the first episode and first world of the game. I hope, despite the technical difficulties, you enjoyed the video, gave you something to think about, and otherwise entertained you. Take care.